Hello and welcome to today's day 3 Facebook Live Talking Anxiety. So before we start, I know we still have to wait for people to come on, probably because I forgot to announce it today, but anyway. So before we start, I want to ask you, those that have watched the last 2 videos, do you have any comments in regards to those videos, and also in regards to those little exercises that I've given you the last two days? Have you done those exercises, and how have they worked for you? How have you found that they have changed anything for you, changed the way you respond to a situation? Has it calmed you down at all? How is it felt for you? And today we want to talk about the emotions. When you're feeling anxious, when you're worried, when you're nervous, when you have a panic attack, it's all about the emotions that you feel rather than the feelings. When we talk about the difference, the feelings can be uncomfortable, anxious and things like that. But what emotions actually come up for you? Because that's what is important. It's the feelings reside in our head, and I guess they're about what we label them to feel like. But I really want you to sit within, the next time that you feel like that, I really want you to sit within your emotions and see what comes up for you, because quite often we don't realize how we're feeling and what is underlying for that anxiety, because anxiety just doesn't come on for whatever has spurred that, for whatever it is that you've seen, you've heard, or what's coming up for you, circumstances or situations. It's all about the emotions that create those triggers, about the emotions that create that anxiety, what form the basis of anxiety. And quite often you'd be really surprised as to what those emotions are. Now, you'll probably find that anger is going to be really high on the list of emotions. Now, you can feel angry with the situation. You can feel angry because you're in that situation. You can feel angry with yourself for feeling like this. And there is anger already there, and that is why it's expressing itself even more so. You might feel shame that you feel because of the situation. You might feel shame because you are anxious, you are nervous, you are worried, and you think maybe that it's a bad thing. You don't want to tell anybody how you're feeling because you're ashamed of that. What else might you be feeling in that moment? You might be feeling that you're not good enough, not worthy, and that is why you're in that situation. That is why you're experiencing that fear, that worry, that nervousness, that all that's coming up. So I really want you to, next time that you're feeling like that, I really want you to sit within those emotions, and it'd be good if you could write it down, what comes up for you, because I think that you'd be really surprised as what is sitting there. And it might take a few times to actually know what it is, because we just focus on what we don't like. We just don't like this situation, and we are so airy-fairy and, up in our head and in that fight or flight situation that we don't know what we're feeling. We just know we don't like it. It's yucky. But learning to name what those emotions are help you move out of those emotions. So it'd be really good if you could write them down and notice that, wondering how perhaps those emotions connect you to that feeling, to that anxiety, that nervousness, that worrying, that discomfort. Where might that stem from? Is that belief that you have Is that even true as to where that stemmed from? Is that feeling even true? And then you can go in and look about perhaps changing that belief. It's also really good and empowering to accept the way that you feel. It might be uncomfortable. It might be not what you want in that situation. But you need to accept that that's how you feel regardless. And no matter how awful it is part of you. And you accept that as part of you, just as you accept all the good aspects of yourself. Because if you're considering that a negative aspect, you will always see it as negative, rather than if you're learning to accept that, yes, this is how I feel at times. I've not been able to do anything about it, but yes, it comes up, and yes, I do feel it. Yes, it is part of me. And you know what? I'm still going to love that as part of me. I'm still going to accept that that's part of me, and I'm going to embrace that side of me. Because how can you heal something if you're not ever going to like it and you're not ever going to accept it? You're just going to keep pushing it further and further away. And you're going to become distant with it instead of making friends with it. So when you learn to accept it, it's really empowering to go, okay, this changes the way I feel about that anxiety or that worry or that nervousness. This changes the way I can manage it, the way I can express that feeling of anxiety or worry. So I hope that makes some sense to you. I also want to talk about what you can and can't control within your anxiety and within your situation at that time, whatever's causing you anxiety. Instead of focusing on what you can't control, you focus on what you can control. And what you can control is how you react or respond in that situation. And that is, again, really empowering because you have a choice. You can either let your emotions and that situation run off with you, or you can choose to take a stand and choose to do something in that moment to make you feel better, to make you feel more empowered, so you can take a hold of that situation and as best that you can. So whether it's what you can control, so when I say react or respond, you react, you do that like you might fly off the handle, you cry, you're a blubbering mess, whatever that reaction is, or yell or scream and shout and carry on, or you learn to respond, which means you take a moment to take a breath and decide what you're going to do. How do you express that energy? How do you get rid of that energy out of your body? So that's really important, to focus on what you can control. So can you control your breathing? Can you decide that you're going to take some slower, longer, deep breaths? Can you put yourself some distance between you and that situation by removing yourself in that time? Can you, if it's inside, can you walk outside? Can you move to another room? Can you, I don't know, change a time frame or something? What is it that you can do in that moment that puts you in control? It really just depends on that situation, but decide, okay, what can I control, and take charge of that. What you can't control, we can't do anything about that, so you have to let that go. But when you take control of what you can actually change or control, that is really empowering, and it changes the whole situation. So because these videos are only short, I'm going to wind it up now, and I'm going to leave you again, as we do each day, with a final tip. And that final tip is, when you're in that moment, quite often your blood pressure is elevated, you might be all sweaty, you're all panicky, and blood's pumping throughout your body really quickly. So even though you may not notice it, your blood pressure is elevated. Your blood is pumping really fast, so you're going to feel hot. You're going to be sweaty. So why don't you, depending again on that situation as to what you can do or how you can manage this, but, you know, splashing some cold water over your face, putting a cold towel or cold wet towel over you, putting your feet in some water, in a bucket of water or something like that. That really brings the temperature down, the core temperature down. It lowers your blood pressure. If cold water, then, you know, it startles you. It gives you a bit of a shock to the system. So therefore, it interrupts those thought patterns that are madly racing through your head. It's an interrupter. So instead of your thoughts focusing on whatever is causing you worry at that time, it's now you're brought back straight into your body instead of being in your head. And you're focusing on, that was cold, and how your body is feeling then is as a reaction to that water. Water also is very calming and soothing, and having something like a cold, wet towel wrapped around you, it's that comfort and that support, because it's like a hug, having something wrapped around you. That having your feet immersed in water as well, that's really important, because that takes the energy out of your body. It diffuses that energy and pulls out that energy and that yuckiness, and it brings back you to a place of calm and grounding. So I really hope that these videos are helping you. Really hope that you're trying those little tips that I'm giving you at the end of each session. So if you've tried those tips that I've given you the last 2 days, please let me know if they are working for you. And I really appreciate those that can make it to the lives each day, because I know it's probably a bad time, being, you know, dinner time for a lot of people, but I have to do it at a time that works for me, that I can be consistently on at the same time. So thank you for joining me. Thank you, Rosina. I think you've been on for the last 3 days. Unmati, hello. I think this is the first time I've seen you comment, so hello and welcome. Millie, I think you were on the other day as well. I'm not sure, but thank you and for joining us. If you have any comments in anything that we've spoken about today, please put them down. If you're watching the replay, let me know with your comments that it's replay, and if you have any comments on today's video as well. I look forward to seeing you for 2 more days at 6 o'clock Sydney time, Australian Eastern Standard Time, for anybody that's interstate or overseas. And good luck with your anxiety journey. It's not the be all and end all. There is always a better way of doing, a better way of being. There's always an alternative that you can try. Don't give up just yet. Okay? Thanks for being here today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.